The smell of sunscreen and salt water filled Jessica Kane's lungs as she stood at the edge of the public beach, watching a man and two children work intently on what appeared to be an architectural masterpiece made entirely of sand. She had come here to escape the suffocating reality of boardrooms and quarterly reports, trading her Armani suit for faded jeans and a simple white linen shirt. Nobody recognized her here, miles away from the corporate towers of Manhattan, on this modest stretch of Virginia coastline where families spread worn beach blankets and children squealed over dollar store toys. The man caught her attention immediately. His broad shoulders were sunburned at the edges, suggesting he had spent more time outdoors recently than his fair complexion was prepared for. His hands moved with surprising gentleness as he showed a little girl, perhaps 5 years old, how to pat down a tower without making it collapse. Next to him, a boy around 8 carefully carved windows into the walls with a plastic knife. "No, Emma, like this," the man said, his voice carrying warmth despite his obvious exhaustion. His work boots sat nearby, covered in what looked like construction dust rather than sand. "Gentle pats. Think of it like you're putting a baby to sleep." The little girl giggled and adjusted her technique, her tongue poking out in concentration. The boy looked up at his father with such open admiration that Jessica felt something twist in her chest. She had spent the morning walking this beach, trying to remember the last time she had felt genuinely happy. At 32, she had built Kane Industries into a technology empire worth $3 billion, had graced the covers of Fortune and Forbes, and had everything she had ever thought she wanted. Except, she had no idea what joy felt like anymore. This family, with their mismatched beach toys and the father's worn jeans rolled up to his knees, radiated something she could not remember possessing. "Dad, do you think we can make it taller than last time?" the boy asked. "We can try, buddy. Sky's the limit." The father ruffled his son's sandy hair. His wedding ring was absent, Jessica noticed, though there was a tan line where one had clearly been. She should not have been watching them. It was intrusive, strange even. But something held her there, observing this snapshot of something real and unpolished. The Sandcastle was genuinely impressive, with multiple towers, a moat, and even a drawbridge fashioned from a piece of driftwood. The father had skill, she realized. The proportions were exact, the architectural details surprisingly sophisticated. A gust of wind sent Emma's plastic bucket rolling toward Jessica's feet. She picked it up, and the little girl came running over, her eyes wide. "Thank you," Emma said shyly, taking the bucket. Her swimsuit had a unicorn on it, and she wore water wings even though they were far from the surf. "You're welcome," Jessica replied, smiling genuinely for what felt like the first time in months. "That's quite a castle you're building." "My daddy is the best builder in the whole world," Emma announced with the absolute certainty only a child could muster. "Emma, don't bother the lady," the father called, standing up and brushing sand from his knees. As he approached, Jessica got a better look at him. He was probably in his early 30s, with kind brown eyes that crinkled at the corners, stubble that suggested he had not shaved in a few days, and an overall appearance of someone carrying weight that had nothing to do with physical strength. "She's not bothering me," Jessica said quickly. "I was actually admiring your work. Are you an architect?" the man laughed, but it was tinged with something bitter. "Not quite. I'm a carpenter, was a carpenter, currently between jobs." He extended his hand. "Lucas Irving, Jessica." She shook his hand, noting the calluses, the strength in his grip, the way he held eye contact for just the right amount of time. Those are some serious Sandcastle skills for a carpenter. Buildings are buildings, whether they're made of wood or sand. Lucas shrugged, but she caught a hint of pride in his voice. "Just trying to give the kids a good day. We don't get to the beach often." The boy had joined them now, protective of his father in a way that made Jessica's heart ache. "I'm Marcus," he announced. "That's my sister Emma. We drove 2 hours to get here." "Marcus, manners," Lucas said gently, but Jessica waved it off. I'm impressed you made the trip. This is a beautiful beach." She paused, weighing her words carefully. Something about this man and his children struck a chord deep within her, awakening an impulse she did not fully understand. "Actually, I have a strange question. I'm here for the weekend at a resort about a mile up the coast. They're having a family event tonight, a sunset dinner on the beach with activities for kids. I was supposed to bring guests, but my plans fell through." The lie came easily, though she was not sure why she told it. "Would you and your children like to join me?" It seems a shame to waste the reservations. Lucas's expression shifted through surprise, suspicion, and something that might have been longing before settling on polite refusal. "That's really kind, but we couldn't impose. We're actually staying at a motel about 20 minutes from here." "Nothing fancy. I'm not asking you to impose. I'm asking you to help me not waste an evening." Jessica surprised herself with her insistence. In business, she knew how to read people, how to find the pressure points, but this was not business, and she found she genuinely wanted them to say yes. "There will be other families there. Your kids would have fun. And honestly, I could use the company. Eating alone gets old." Emma tugged on her father's hand. "Daddy, can we please?" Marcus tried to look indifferent, but Jessica caught the hope in his eyes. Lucas looked between his children and Jessica, clearly torn. "We're not really dressed for a resort," he said finally. "It's a beach event, casual. I promise you'll fit right in." Jessica pulled out her phone. "What's your number? I'll text you the address and time, 6 o'clock. No pressure, but the invitation stands. After a moment's hesitation, Lucas recited his number. Jessica typed it in and sent a quick text. When his phone buzzed in his pocket, she smiled. "Think about it. I hope to see you there." She started to walk away, then turned back. "Really? I hope you come." As she headed down the beach, she heard Emma's excited chatter and Marcus's more measured questions. She did not hear Lucas's response, but something told her he would show up. Back at her suite at the Tidewater Resort, Jessica stared at her reflection and wondered what had possessed her. She had invented a family dinner event that did not exist, extended an invitation to a complete stranger and his children, and now had to actually make it happen. She picked up the phone and called the resort's events coordinator. "Miss Kane, how can I help you?" The woman's voice was professionally cheerful. "I need you to arrange a private beach dinner for this evening. 6 o'clock. Something family-friendly, activities for children, high quality but casual. Can you make that happen?" "Of course. How many guests?" Jessica paused. "Set up for 6, but there will likely be 4, and make sure there are things for kids to do. Games, maybe a S'more station, something fun." "Consider it done." After she hung up, Jessica sat on the edge of the bed and tried to examine her motivations. She had not gotten where she was by being impulsive or emotional. Every decision she made was calculated, strategic, but this felt different. Lucas and his children represented something she had lost somewhere along her climb to the top. Maybe they reminded her that there was more to life than profit margins and stock prices. Or maybe, a small voice whispered, she was just lonely. At 5:30, she changed into a simple sundress, left her hair down, and wore minimal jewelry. When she caught herself checking her reflection for the 3rd time, she shook her head at her own behavior. The resort had outdone themselves. On a private section of beach, they had set up a table under a canopy of white lights that would glow beautifully at sunset. There was a smaller table and chairs perfectly sized for children, a fire pit ready for S'mores, and several beach games scattered around. It looked magical without being ostentatious. At 6:15, Jessica began to think they would not come. Then she saw them making their way down the beach path. Lucas had clearly done his best. He wore clean khakis and a button-down shirt that had been pressed but was slightly worn at the collar. His hair was still damp from a shower. Marcus wore cargo shorts and a polo that was a size too small, and Emma had on a sundress with tiny flowers that was clearly her church dress, based on how carefully she was walking in it. Jessica's throat tightened. They had tried so hard. "You made it," she said, walking over to greet them. I'm so glad. Thank you for inviting us, Lucas said formally. His eyes took in the setup and she saw his jaw tighten. This is too much. It's exactly enough, Jessica countered. Emma, Marcus, do you like s'mores? What are s'mores? Emma asked, and Jessica made a mental note to make sure the kids got extra marshmallows. Over dinner, which consisted of grilled fish, fresh vegetables, and various sides that the kids actually ate without complaint, Jessica learned Lucas's story in pieces. He had been married young to his high school sweetheart, Melissa. Marcus had come along when Lucas was 22, Emma 3 years later. Lucas had worked for a construction company, steadily building his skills and reputation. Life had not been easy, but it had been good. Then Melissa was diagnosed with an aggressive form of breast cancer. The medical bills had been crushing, even with insurance. Lucas had taken out loans, sold their house, moved to a cheaper apartment. He had spent 2 years watching his wife fade while trying to keep his children's world stable. Melissa had died 8 months ago. Lucas's grief had affected his work, and he had been let go from his job. He had been picking up day labor and odd jobs ever since, trying to keep his head above water while being both mother and father to 2 grieving children. He told the story without self-pity, his voice steady, but Jessica saw the exhaustion carved into every line of his face. The kids needed a break, he said, watching Emma chase Marcus around the fire pit. We've been cooped up in our apartment too much. I figured even if we could only afford 1 night away, it would be worth it. They seem happy, Jessica observed. They're resilient. Kids are amazing that way. Lucas took a sip of his beer. Emma doesn't really remember what life was like before Melissa got sick. Marcus remembers everything, which is harder for him. And you, Lucas met her eyes. I remember too. Some days that's good, some days it's not. Jessica found herself wanting to reach across the table and take his hand, which was absurd. She barely knew this man. What about you? Lucas asked. You never said what brings you here alone. Jessica considered her answer. She could deflect, give him the easy version. Instead, she found herself being honest. I'm CEO of a tech company, Kane Industries. I've spent the last 10 years building it into something significant. And about a month ago, I realized I couldn't remember the last time I did something just because I wanted to, not because it served some business purpose. She gestured at the beach. So I took a long weekend, drove to a place I'd never been, and I'm trying to figure out what makes me happy. Have you figured it out yet? Getting there, she smiled. Tonight helped. They watched the children roast marshmallows under the careful supervision of the resort staff member assigned to the fire pit. Emma got more marshmallow on her face than in her mouth, while Marcus focused on achieving the perfect golden brown. Why did you really invite us? Lucas asked quietly. Nobody's this nice to strangers. Maybe I wanted to be, Jessica said. Maybe I saw you with your kids and remembered that there are things more important than quarterly earnings reports. She paused. Or maybe I was just tired of being alone, and you looked like someone who would understand that. Lucas studied her for a long moment. You're not what I expected a CEO to be. What did you expect? Someone colder, more calculating? He shrugged. Someone who wouldn't spend her evening with a broke carpenter and his kids. You're not just a broke carpenter. You're a father who drove 2 hours to give his children a good memory. That's worth more than anything I've accomplished. The conversation shifted to lighter topics as the sun began its descent toward the horizon. Jessica learned that Marcus loved science and wanted to be an astronaut, that Emma was obsessed with unicorns and had very strong opinions about the proper colors for imaginary horses, and that Lucas had built their sandcastle based on a castle from a fairy tale book the kids loved. When Emma climbed into Jessica's lap unprompted, yawning and leaning against her chest, Jessica felt something crack open inside her. The girl's hair smelled like strawberry shampoo and wood smoke. Lucas started to apologize, but Jessica shook her head, wrapping her arms carefully around the drowsy child. She's fine, Jessica whispered. As the stars emerged and the fire burned low, Lucas carried a sleeping Emma while Marcus walked beside him, trying to stay awake through sheer willpower. Jessica walked them to the parking lot where Lucas's truck sat, a decade-old Ford with a dent in the passenger side. "Thank you," Lucas said, settling Emma into her car seat. "Tonight was special. The kids will remember this." "I will too." Jessica meant it. "Lucas, can I ask you something?" "Sure." "What would you do if money wasn't an issue? If you could just focus on what you wanted to build, what you loved to create?" Lucas smiled sadly. "That's a nice thought. I'd probably design and build custom furniture, maybe houses, things that last, that have character. My grandfather was a craftsman, taught me to see the potential in wood." He shook his head. "But that's not reality. Reality is I need to find steady work that pays the bills, and soon." Jessica pulled out her phone. "Give me your email address." "Why? Just do it, please." After he recited it, she held up the phone. "Check your email tomorrow afternoon. And Lucas, tonight wasn't charity. It was the best evening I've had in longer than I can remember." She walked back to her suite before she could second-guess herself. At midnight, in her hotel room overlooking the ocean, Jessica opened her laptop and began writing an email. Then she made several phone calls, despite the late hour. When you were worth $3 billion, people answered your midnight calls. By 3 a.m, she had put something together that was either brilliant or insane. Time would tell. Lucas drove home in the darkness, glancing in the rearview mirror at his sleeping children. Marcus had lasted until they hit the highway before nodding off. The evening felt surreal, like he had stepped into someone else's life for a few hours. Jessica Kane. He had Googled her on his phone in the restaurant bathroom. The search results had been overwhelming. She was not just successful, she was a phenomenon. Self-made billionaire, innovator, one of the most powerful women in technology. And she had spent her evening eating s'mores with his kids. He could not figure out her angle. People like her did not do things without reasons. But when Emma had crawled into her lap, Jessica's expression had been so openly vulnerable that Lucas had seen past the CEO to the woman underneath. She was beautiful, obviously, but it was more than that. There was an intelligence in her eyes, a directness in the way she spoke, and a loneliness that mirrored his own. Not that it mattered. She lived in a different world, one he could not begin to access. Tonight had been a gift, a brief glimpse into a life that was not his. Tomorrow he would go back to reality. Job hunting, bills, and trying to be enough for his children when he felt like he was failing them daily. The next afternoon, while Marcus and Emma watched a movie in their small living room, Lucas checked his email on his phone. The message from Jessica Kane was detailed and professional, yet somehow still warm. "Lucas, last night you asked why I invited you, and I gave you a partial answer. Here's the rest. I saw something in you that I don't see often in my world. Authenticity. Skill combined with heart. The way you built that sandcastle with your children showed me an artist who happens to work with his hands. Kane Industries has recently acquired a property development division. We're launching a new project, custom-designed, environmentally sustainable homes that prioritize craftsmanship over mass production. I need someone to head the design and build team, someone who understands that a house should be more than walls and a roof. I'm offering you a job. Salary is $120,000 annually to start, with benefits including full health coverage for you and your children, retirement contributions, and performance bonuses. The position is based in Richmond, about an hour from where you currently live. Before you say this is charity or pity, let me be clear. I don't do business based on emotions. I checked your background. Your previous supervisor said you were the best carpenter he'd ever worked with, that you had an instinct for design and construction that couldn't be taught. You lost your job because of circumstances that would have broken most people, not because you lacked skill. This is a legitimate offer for a position that needs to be filled. I'm hoping you're the right person for it. If you're interested, I'd like you to come to Richmond next week for a proper interview and to tour the facilities. I'll cover your travel expenses and arrange childcare during the meeting if needed. Think about it, but don't overthink it. Jessica Lucas read the email 3 times. His hands were shaking. This did not happen. People did not offer jobs like this to strangers they met on a beach. There had to be a catch, some angle he was not seeing, but that salary. With that salary, he could move out of their cramped apartment. Marcus could join the science club he had been asking about. Emma could take the dance classes she saw on TV and tried to imitate in their living room. He could breathe again. His phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Lucas, it's Jessica. Did you get my email? Her voice sounded different on the phone, more businesslike but still carrying that warmth. I just read it. Jessica, this is insane. You don't know me. You can't offer me a job based on watching me build a sandcastle. I'm not. I'm offering you a job based on your skills, experience, and the references I checked. The sandcastle just made me think you might be worth investigating further. He heard her take a breath. Listen, I know this seems sudden, but I built a billion-dollar company by trusting my instincts about people. My instinct says you're someone worth taking a chance on. What if I fail? What if I'm not what you think I am? Then we'll figure it out. But Lucas, I saw you with your kids. I saw the castle you built. I looked into your work history. You're exactly what you think you are, skilled, dedicated, and honorable. The question is whether you're willing to take a chance on yourself. Lucas closed his eyes. When would you want me in Richmond? Is Tuesday too soon? I can have my assistant arrange everything. Tuesday's fine. He was jumping off a cliff, but for the first time in months, he felt something like hope. Jessica, why are you really doing this? She was quiet for a moment. Because last night, watching you with Emma and Marcus, I remembered what it felt like to care about something real. You reminded me of who I wanted to be before I got so caught up in being successful that I forgot to be human. So maybe I'm being selfish. Maybe helping you helps me figure out how to find my way back. Her honesty undid him. Thank you. I don't know what else to say except thank you. Say you'll come to Richmond with an open mind. I can do that. After they hung up, Lucas sat on his worn couch and let himself imagine a future where he did not have to choose between being present for his children and keeping them housed and fed. Where he could use his skills to create something meaningful. Where the weight on his shoulders might lighten just enough that he could think about living instead of just surviving. That night, after the kids were in bed, he pulled out his sketchbook for the first time since Melissa's funeral. His hands moved across the page, designing a house that existed only in his imagination. Clean lines, abundant windows, spaces that flowed together naturally. A home, not just a house. He drew until his hand cramped, feeling something wake up inside him that had been dormant for too long. Tuesday arrived wrapped in autumn sunshine. Lucas borrowed a suit from his neighbor, got the kids to school early, and made the drive to Richmond with his stomach in knots. Kane Industries occupied a modern glass building that seemed to touch the sky. Lucas felt dramatically out of place as he rode the elevator to the 20th floor, where Jessica's assistant, a sharply dressed woman named Patricia, greeted him warmly. Miss Kane is looking forward to seeing you. She's just finishing up a call. The office was all windows and clean lines, decorated with the kind of minimalist art Lucas did not pretend to understand. But there were also small touches of personality. A photo of Jessica on a mountain summit, a collection of interesting rocks on a shelf, a worn copy of a design magazine. Lucas. He turned to find Jessica emerging from an inner office. She wore a tailored suit that probably cost more than his truck, her hair pulled back, every inch the powerful CEO. But her smile was the same one from the beach. Jessica, this is quite different from the beach. Isn't it, though? I miss my sundress already. She gestured to her office. Come on, let's talk somewhere more comfortable than this waiting room. Her office was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Richmond, a massive desk that looked custom-made, and a sitting area with comfortable chairs. But what caught Lucas's attention was the detailed architectural model on a side table. Is this the development project? He moved closer, studying the miniature houses with their clean lines and sustainable design. It is. We've got 50 acres outside the city. The plan is to build 20 custom homes, each one unique, using sustainable materials and innovative design. She stood next to him. Every house should tell a story, should fit the people who live in it. That's the vision. This is ambitious. Lucas's mind was already working, seeing possibilities. The market for this kind of custom work at scale is tricky. You need clients who value craftsmanship enough to pay for it, but aren't so wealthy they want to hire separate architects and builders. Exactly. Which is why I need someone who understands both the art and the business. Jessica handed him a tablet. These are the preliminary designs. What do you think? Lucas studied the plans, his trained eye catching details. They're good, great bones. But here, the flow from the kitchen to the living space is awkward, and this master bedroom needs more light. Can I? He gestured at a pen on her desk. Please. For the next hour, they bent over the plans together. Lucas sketched modifications, explaining his thinking. Jessica challenged some ideas, agreed with others, and added her own suggestions. It was not an interview, it was a collaboration. You see spaces the way I see code, Jessica said finally, leaning back in her chair. You understand the underlying architecture, what makes something work versus what just looks good. My grandfather used to say a good building should feel like it grew there naturally, like it was always meant to exist. Lucas set down the pen. These designs could be that. They just need refinement. So you'll take the job? Lucas met her eyes. I need to be honest about something. I haven't led a team before. My experience is in hands-on building. If you need someone with management experience, I might not be your guy. What you lack in management experience, you make up for in vision and skill. The management part can be learned. Jessica stood and walked to the window. I'm not going to push you. This is a big decision, especially with your kids to consider. But Lucas, I meant what I said. I think you're exactly what this project needs. Can I see the property before I decide? Jessica smiled. I was hoping you'd ask. My car's downstairs. The drive to the development site took 30 minutes. They talked easily, conversation flowing from her company's history to his ideas about sustainable building to their shared love of old movies. Jessica drove a surprisingly modest car for a billionaire, a Tesla that she handled with easy confidence. The property was beautiful. Rolling hills, mature trees, a view of distant mountains. Stakes marked where the houses would go, and a construction trailer sat at the entrance. Lucas walked the land, his hands in his pockets, his mind working. He could see it. Homes that fit into the landscape, each one taking advantage of the natural features built to last generations. The soil composition is good here, he said, crouching down. And the way the land slopes, you could use that for natural drainage. Solar panels would work well with this southern exposure. Is that a yes? Jessica asked. Lucas straightened. If I take this job, I need to do it right. My kids come first always. I'll work as hard as you need, but I can't miss Emma's dance recitals or Marcus's science fairs. And I'm still figuring out this single parent thing, so there might be days I'm scattered. Fair enough. What else? I'm going to make mistakes. I'll own up to them, but I need to know you're patient while I learn. I can do patient. Anything else? Why does this feel less like a job interview and more like something else? The question slipped out before Lucas could stop it. Jessica's expression shifted, becoming vulnerable. Because maybe it is something else, or maybe it's both. Lucas, I'll be honest with you. When I saw you on that beach, something shifted in me. I'm not going to pretend this is purely professional, but the job offer is real, based on your qualifications. What happens beyond that, if anything, is separate. You're offering me a job while admitting you're attracted to me. That seems complicated. It is complicated. Jessica stepped closer. Which is why I'm being upfront about it. You're free to take the job and keep everything professional. I won't make it weird or uncomfortable. But I'd be lying if I said I only wanted to hire you. Lucas's heart was pounding. I buried my wife 8 months ago. I'm barely holding my life together. I have 2 kids who need stability. I'm probably the worst possible person for whatever this might be. Or maybe you're exactly the right person and the timing just isn't simple. Jessica's voice was gentle. Look, take the job. Move to Richmond. Let's see what happens naturally without pressure. Maybe we become friends, maybe colleagues, maybe something more eventually. But first, let's just see if this professional relationship works. It was the sanest suggestion in an insane situation. Lucas extended his hand. Okay, I'll take the job. Jessica shook his hand, her grip firm. Welcome to Kane Industries. The next month was a whirlwind. Lucas found an apartment in Richmond with help from Jessica's assistant, a 3-bedroom place in a good school district that was infinitely better than where they had been living. Moving meant uprooting Marcus and Emma again, but they adjusted better than he had hoped. Marcus loved his new school, particularly the well-funded science program. Emma made friends immediately, as she always did, and started dance classes that made her float around the apartment practicing her steps. The job was challenging but exhilarating. Lucas met his team, a mix of experienced contractors and young designers, and began the process of refining the plans for the first phase of homes. He worked long hours, but managed to keep his promise about putting his kids first. Jessica kept her word about maintaining professional boundaries. They worked together frequently, but she was careful not to push beyond business. Still, Lucas felt the pull between them, the awareness that there was something unspoken and growing. 6 weeks after he started, they were at the construction site reviewing the foundation work for the first house when Jessica's phone rang. Lucas heard her side of the conversation, watched her face pale. When? Is he stable? I'll be there in 20 minutes. She hung up and turned to Lucas. I have to go. My father had a heart attack. He's at Richmond General. Go, is there anything I can do? Can you handle the meeting with the inspector this afternoon? I was supposed to be here, but I need to get to the hospital. Of course. Go be with your family. Jessica squeezed his arm briefly, then hurried to her car. Lucas handled the inspection, then found himself thinking about Jessica for the rest of the day. He knew what it was like to wait in hospitals, to feel helpless while doctors worked. That night, after getting the kids to bed, he texted her. How's your father? Her response came an hour later, stable. Surgery in the morning. Thank you for asking. If you need anything, let me know. That means more than you know. Jessica's father survived the surgery but faced a long recovery. She spent the next week splitting time between the hospital, her company, and the development project. Lucas watched her stretch herself thin, saw the exhaustion in her eyes during their meetings. 2 weeks after the heart attack, Lucas arrived for an early meeting to find Jessica asleep at her desk, her head on her arms, still wearing yesterday's clothes. Jessica. He touched her shoulder gently. She jolted awake, disoriented. What time is it? Did I miss our meeting? Just started. When's the last time you went home? I don't know. Yesterday, the day before. She rubbed her face. My father had a setback. I was at the hospital all night. I came here to get some work done before our meeting, and I guess I just fell asleep. Lucas made a decision. Reschedule everything you have today. I'm driving you home. I can't. I have the board meeting at noon, and the contractor needs these approvals, and Patricia can handle the approvals. You can call into the board meeting from home. Jessica, you're no good to anyone like this. She looked like she might argue, but then deflated. You're right, I'm barely functional. He drove her to her house, a beautiful modern home in a quiet neighborhood. Inside, it was tastefully decorated but oddly impersonal, like a high-end hotel. When did you last eat? Lucas asked, heading toward her kitchen. I don't remember. He found eggs and bread and made her scrambled eggs and toast, simple food that would not upset an exhausted stomach. Jessica sat at her kitchen island, watching him work. You don't have to do this, she said quietly. I know. He set the plate in front of her. Eat, she did, and some color returned to her face. Thank you. My wife used to do this for me, Lucas said, sitting across from her. When I was working too much, pushing too hard, she'd force me to stop and take care of myself. I hated it at the time, but she was right. You don't talk about her much. It's hard. Some days I can barely remember what her voice sounded like, and that terrifies me. Other days, I remember everything so clearly it hurts. He traced a pattern on the counter. But I'm learning that grief isn't something you get over. You just learn to carry it differently. How do you do it? Balance everything? Be there for your kids while still working and just functioning as a human? Badly, most days, but I keep showing up and that seems to be enough. He looked at her seriously. You're allowed to be human, Jessica, to need help, to not be perfect. She laughed, but it sounded close to tears. I built my entire identity around being strong, capable, the woman who doesn't need anyone. And now my father's sick, and I can't fix it, and I'm terrified of losing him the way you lost Melissa. Come here. Lucas opened his arms, and after a moment's hesitation, Jessica moved around the island and let him hold her. She was taller than Melissa had been, fit differently in his arms, but it still felt right. She cried quietly into his shoulder for a few minutes, then pulled back, wiping her eyes. Sorry, that was unprofessional. We're not at the office, and you're human, remember? Humans cry sometimes. Jessica smiled weakly. Stay for a while. I don't want to be alone right now. Lucas texted his neighbor who watched the kids after school, letting her know he would be late. Then he and Jessica moved to her living room where they talked for hours. She told him about her father, a hard man who had never quite approved of her choices, but who she loved fiercely. About building her company from nothing, the sacrifices she had made, the loneliness of being at the top. Lucas shared stories about Melissa, the good memories that were safe to remember now. About his fears that he was failing his children, that Emma would not remember her mother, that Marcus was growing up too fast. As afternoon shadows lengthened across the room, Lucas realized they had crossed a line. This was not boss and employee. This was something deeper, more real. I should go get my kids, he said reluctantly. Thank you for today, for making me stop, for listening. Jessica walked him to the door. Lucas, I know I said we'd keep things professional, but I don't think I can pretend anymore that I don't have feelings for you. His heart raced. Jessica, I'm a mess. My life is complicated. I come with 2 kids and enough baggage to fill a cargo plane. I don't care about that. She met his eyes. I care about you, the way you are with Emma and Marcus, the way you see beauty in buildings and spaces, the way you made me remember what it's like to feel something real. She paused, but I also know the timing is terrible. You're still grieving, working for me, figuring out your new life, so I'm not asking for anything, I just needed you to know. Lucas took her hand. I have feelings for you too, but I can't figure out what to do with them right now. Is that okay? It's perfectly okay. Jessica squeezed his hand. We have time. Over the following months, their relationship evolved in ways that felt natural despite the unusual circumstances. They were careful at work, maintaining professional boundaries, but outside the office, they became friends who maybe wanted something more. Jessica started joining them for occasional dinners, becoming a familiar presence to Emma and Marcus. The kids liked her, especially when she admitted she had never roasted a marshmallow before they taught her and took their instructions very seriously. Lucas met Jessica's father after he was released from the hospital, a gruff man who sized Lucas up and said, "You're the carpenter my daughter keeps talking about." "I am," Lucas confirmed. "She says you're good at your job." "I try to be." Mr. Kane studied him. "She also looks happy when she mentions you, which is something I haven't seen in years. Don't screw that up." "Dad," Jessica protested, but Lucas smiled. "No, sir, I won't." The development project progressed beautifully. The first 3 houses were taking shape, and Lucas felt pride in every beam and wall. He had found his team's rhythm, learned to lead while still getting his hands dirty with the work he loved. In early spring, nearly 6 months after Jessica had first approached him on the beach, Lucas took Emma and Marcus back to that same stretch of sand. They built another sandcastle, even more elaborate than the first. "Is Miss Jessica going to come?" Emma asked, carefully placing shells along the castle walls. Maybe later, Lucas said. He had, in fact, invited her. Marcus looked up from his architectural masterpiece, the multiple tower section he was insisting on. Dad, do you like Miss Jessica? Of course I like her. She's my boss and my friend. No, I mean, do you like her? Marcus fixed him with the too perceptive stare of an almost 10-year-old. Lucas sat back on his heels. Would it bother you if I did? Marcus considered this seriously. Is she going to try to be our new mom? No one will ever replace your mom. Ever. Lucas pulled Marcus close. But maybe, someday, there could be someone who also cares about you guys and about me. Would that be okay? Would she still hang out with us even if she's your girlfriend? Emma asked. I think so. But we're not rushing into anything. Right now, she's our friend. If it becomes something more, you guys will be part of that conversation. Deal. Deal, both kids said together. That evening, Jessica arrived as the sun began its descent. She wore jeans and a simple shirt, her hair in a ponytail, looking nothing like a CEO and everything like herself. Wow, this is even better than the last one, she said, admiring the castle. We've been practicing, Marcus informed her proudly. They roasted hot dogs over a portable grill Lucas had brought, ate chips that got sand in them, and watched the tide slowly approach their castle. It's going to wash it away, Emma said sadly as the first waves touched the moat. That's okay, Jessica said, putting an arm around the girl. You know what's cool about sandcastles? You can always build another one. Each one is special while it lasts, and then you get to make new memories with the next one. That's actually pretty wise, Lucas said quietly. After the kids fell asleep in the back of his truck, wrapped in blankets under the stars, Lucas and Jessica walked along the water's edge. Your kids asked me today if I was going to be their new mom, Lucas said. Jessica stopped walking. What did you say? I said no one would replace Melissa. But that maybe someone could care about all of us. He turned to face her. Jessica, I think I'm ready, if you're still interested in figuring out what this is. I'm interested. Her voice was soft. But Lucas, I need you to be sure. I don't want to be a rebound or a replacement or a way to fill the loneliness. You're not. You're you. He took her hands. You're brilliant and kind and terrible at roasting marshmallows. You make my kids laugh and you challenge me to be better at my work. You're the first person since Melissa died who makes me think about a future instead of just surviving the present. I'm scared, Jessica admitted. I've never done this before. The relationship thing, the potential stepmother thing, what if I'm terrible at it? Then you'll be terrible at it with someone who's equally clueless about dating while being a single parent. Lucas smiled. We'll figure it out together. Jessica kissed him, tentative at first, then with more certainty. Lucas pulled her closer, and it felt like coming home and going on an adventure at the same time. When they broke apart, both breathless, Jessica laughed. That was worth waiting for. We should probably take this slow, for the kids. Agreed, very slow, painfully slow. She kissed him again. Starting now. They dated carefully over the next months, building their relationship with the same attention to detail Lucas put into his houses. Family dinners became more frequent. Jessica taught Marcus about computer programming while Lucas taught her about woodworking. Emma declared Jessica her special friend and asked her to come to her dance recital, where Jessica cried through the entire performance. The development project launched its first 3 homes to significant interest. Buyers loved the combination of custom design and sustainable building practices. Lucas's team began work on the next phase, and he found himself genuinely excited about work for the first time in years. 1 year after their first meeting on the beach, Lucas invited Jessica to the construction site after hours. The first house was complete, empty and waiting for its new owners to move in. Why are we here? Jessica asked as he led her inside. I wanted to show you something. He guided her to the master bedroom, where floor-to-ceiling windows framed the sunset. This is the room that started it all. You asked me what I'd do if money wasn't an issue, and I said I'd build spaces that last, that have character. This is that dream, real and standing. It's beautiful, Jessica said, touching the wooden window frame he had crafted by hand. You did this. You saw something in a struggling guy building a sandcastle with his kids, and you gave him a chance to be who he was meant to be. Lucas turned her to face him. You changed my life, Jessica. You changed mine, too. You reminded me that success isn't just about building companies. It's about building lives, relationships, memories. Lucas pulled a small box from his pocket, and Jessica's eyes widened. Wait, I need to say something first, he said. I loved Melissa. Part of me will always love her, but loving her doesn't mean I can't also love you. Grief and love aren't mutually exclusive. I've learned they can exist together. Lucas, I talked to the kids. Marcus said, and I quote, "She makes you smile again, Dad." Emma said she would be very extremely happy if you were officially part of our family. He opened the box, revealing a simple but elegant ring. Jessica Kane, will you marry me? Tears streamed down Jessica's face. Yes, absolutely yes. The ring fit perfectly. They kissed in the empty house, in the space that represented new beginnings as the sunset painted the walls gold. Planning a wedding while running a company and managing a major construction project was predictably chaotic. But Jessica and Lucas were determined to do it their way. Small ceremony, close friends and family, with Emma and Marcus as important parts of the event. They married on the beach where they had met, almost 18 months to the day from that first encounter. Emma and Marcus stood with them, part of the ceremony. When the officiant asked who gave Jessica to be married, her father said, "She gives herself because that's who she is." But her family and I support this union. When asked the same about Lucas, Marcus stepped forward solemnly and said, "Our mom would have wanted Dad to be happy. We think Jessica makes him happy, so we give our blessing." Emma nodded vigorously in agreement, making everyone laugh through their tears. The reception was casual and perfect. Good food, dancing on the sand, a sandcastle building contest that got competitive when Jessica's father and Lucas's uncle decided to team up and create an elaborate fortress. As Jessica and Lucas danced under the stars, she whispered, "Thank you for taking a chance on a CEO who had forgotten how to be human. Thank you for taking a chance on a broke carpenter with a complicated life," Lucas countered. "Best decision I ever made." Their merged family had its adjustments. Jessica sold her minimalist house and moved into a bigger place that Lucas helped redesign, creating spaces that worked for all of them. Emma and Marcus took time warming up to having Jessica as a permanent fixture, but she was patient, never trying to replace their mother but carving out her own place in their lives. Marcus helped Jessica understand the kids' perspective when she got frustrated. "You don't have to be perfect. Just be here," he told her one day after she had apologized for forgetting about a school event. Emma warmed up completely when Jessica surprised her with dance lessons with a former professional ballerina, then came to every single class to watch. Lucas and Jessica fell into a rhythm, splitting kid duties, supporting each other's work, stealing moments alone when they could. They argued occasionally, usually about Jessica taking on too much or Lucas being too stubborn about accepting help, but they always worked through it. The development project expanded. Word spread about the quality and craftsmanship, and soon Lucas was fielding requests from other cities wanting similar projects. Jessica helped him establish his own division within Kane Industries, giving him autonomy while providing resources. 2 years into their marriage, Jessica called a family meeting. Emma was 8 now, Marcus 12, both of them settled and thriving. "I want to talk to you guys about something," Jessica said, unusually nervous. Lucas took her hand, knowing what was coming. "Are we in trouble?" Emma asked, worried. "No, nothing like that," Jessica smiled. "How would you feel about having a baby brother or sister?" Marcus's eyes widened. "You're pregnant?" "I am, about 3 months along." Emma squealed and launched herself at Jessica's stomach. "A baby, a real baby." Marcus was more reserved but smiled. "That's cool. I guess I'll be a big brother again." "You'll be great at it," Lucas assured him. You're already great at taking care of Emma. Will the baby be my real sister or brother, or like a half one? Emma asked with the directness of a child. Real in every way that matters, Jessica said firmly. Just like I'm your real stepmom in every way that matters. Family isn't always about biology. It's about love and showing up and being there for each other. Does this mean we get to decorate a nursery? Marcus asked, getting excited now. Can we make it space-themed? With planets and stars? We can make it whatever you want to help design, Lucas said. This is our baby, all of us together. The pregnancy was healthy but not easy. Jessica tried to maintain her usual pace until Lucas literally unplugged her laptop one evening and said, "You're growing a human. You're allowed to slow down." She reluctantly scaled back her hours, working from home more often. Marcus and Emma helped prepare, reading parenting books with adorable seriousness and offering advice based on their own babyhood stories that Lucas shared. Their daughter, Lily Melissa Irving Kane, was born on a sunny morning in May. She had Lucas's eyes and Jessica's determination, announcing her presence with lusty cries that made her siblings laugh with delight. "She's so tiny," Emma whispered, holding her baby sister carefully in the hospital room. "You were even tinier," Lucas said, taking pictures of his 3 children together. Marcus studied Lily seriously. "I'll teach her about science and how to build stuff." "She'll be lucky to have you," Jessica said, exhausted but glowing. Bringing Lily home was chaotic and wonderful. The house filled with baby sounds, midnight feedings, and the particular joy of a newborn. Marcus and Emma took their big sibling roles seriously, helping with bottles and diaper changes and entertaining Lily when she was fussy. Jessica discovered that motherhood of a newborn was entirely different from step-parenting older children, but Lucas was patient, showing her what he had learned with his first 2. They stumbled through it together, laughing at their mistakes and celebrating small victories. The development company continued to grow. Lucas hired talented people he trusted, building a team that shared his vision for quality craftsmanship and sustainable design. Jessica supported him while managing her own company, and somehow they made it work. On their 3rd wedding anniversary, they returned to the beach with all 3 kids. Lucas and Marcus built an elaborate sandcastle, while Jessica helped Emma create a garden around it. Lily, now 18 months old and endlessly curious, mostly destroyed what they built, but everyone agreed she was helping. "Do you ever think about how crazy this all is?" Jessica asked, leaning against Lucas as they watched the kids play. "Every day. 3 years ago, I was barely holding it together. Now I have you, a job I love, and our beautiful chaos of a family." "I was so lonely," Jessica said quietly. "I had everything I thought I wanted and felt completely empty. And then I saw you building a sandcastle with your kids, and something just clicked. Fate, maybe, or maybe just really good timing and sandcastle skills." She kissed him. "Thank you for building this life with me. Thank you for seeing me when I couldn't see myself." Lily toddles over, her hands full of sand, and dumped it on Lucas's lap with a proud smile. "Daddy, help!" "I think that's my cue," Lucas said, standing up and swinging Lily into his arms, making her shriek with laughter. Jessica watched her family, her heart full in a way she had never imagined possible. She thought about the woman she had been, driven and successful but fundamentally alone. That woman had seen a struggling father and his children and recognized something she was missing. She had meant to offer an invitation to a dinner, a simple kindness to fill an empty evening. Instead, she had found everything she had been searching for without knowing she was searching. Marcus called her over to admire their castle, now truly impressive with its multiple towers and intricate details. Emma pulled her hand, wanting to show her the shell garden. Lily squirmed in Lucas's arms, reaching for Jessica with chubby hands. "Come on," Lucas said, his smile warm. "Our castle needs its queen." Jessica joined her family on the sand, helping build and create and laugh. The castle would wash away with the tide, as it always did. But the memories, the love, the life they had built together would last. Years later, when people asked Jessica about the secret to her success, she would think of this moment, surrounded by her family, her hands sandy, her heart full. Success, she had learned, was not measured in dollars or companies or headlines. It was measured in sandcastles built with people you loved, in the laughter of children, in the steady presence of a partner who knew all your flaws and loved you anyway. It was measured in taking chances on strangers, in invitations extended, in seeing potential where others saw only circumstances. It was measured in love, given freely and returned abundantly. As the sun set over the ocean, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Jessica Kane Irving looked at her family and knew she had finally found what success really meant. And it was more beautiful than any sandcastle, more valuable than any company, more precious than anything she could have built on her own. It was home.